Well, the argument for the idea that capitalism promotes human benefit is pretty familiar. It goes something like this. Capitalist firms survive only if they make money, and they make money only if they prevail in competition against other capitalist firms. Since that competition is severe, the firm to survive has to be efficient. If firms produce incompetently, they go under. So they have to seize every opportunity to improve their productive facilities and techniques so that they can produce cheaply enough to make enough money to go on. It's admitted in this justification of capitalism that the capitalist firm doesn't aim to satisfy people, but the firms can't get what they are aiming at, which is money, unless they do satisfy people and satisfy them better than rival firms do. Well, I agree with part of this argument. Capitalist competition, it has to be acknowledged, has induced a remarkable growth in our power to produce things. But the argument also says that capitalism satisfies people, and I'm going to claim that the way the system uses technical progress generates widespread frustration, not satisfaction. My anti-capitalist argument starts with the very same proposition with which the argument praising capitalism begins. Namely, this proposition: the aim of the capitalist firm is to make as much money as it can. It isn't basically interested in serving anybody's needs. It measures its performance by how much profit it makes. Now, that doesn't prove straight off that it isn't good at serving needs. In fact, the case for capitalism that I expressed a moment ago might be put as follows. Competing firms trying not to satisfy needs, but to make money, will in fact serve our needs extremely well, since they can't make money unless they do so. Okay, that's the argument. But I'm now going to show that the fact that capitalist firms aren't interested in serving human needs does have harmful consequences. Recall that improvement in productivity is required if the firm's going to survive in competition. Now, what does improved productivity mean? It means more output for every unit of labor. And that means that you can do two different things when productivity goes up. One way of using enhanced productivity is to reduce work and extend leisure, while producing the same output as before. Alternatively, output may be increased while labor stays the same. Now, let's grant that more output is a good thing. But it's also true that for most people, what they have to do to earn a living isn't a source of joy. Most people's jobs, after all, are such that they benefit not only from more goods and services, but also from a shorter working day and longer holidays. Just consider, if God gave all of us the pay we now get, and granted us freedom to choose whether or not to work at our present jobs for as long as we pleased, but for no extra pay, then there'd be a big increase in leisure time pursuits. So improved productivity makes two things possible. It makes possible either more output or less toil, or of course some mixture of both. But capitalism is biased in favor of the first option only, increased output, since the other, reduction of toil, threatens a sacrifice of the profit associated with greater output and sales. What does a firm do when the efficiency of its production improves? Well, it doesn't just reduce the working day of its employees and produce the same amount as before. Instead, it makes more stuff. It makes more of the goods it was already making. Or if that isn't possible, because the demand for what it's selling won't expand, then it lays off part of its workforce and seeks a new line of production in which to invest the money it thereby saves. Eventually, new jobs are created and output continues to expand, although there's a lot of unemployment and suffering along the way. Now, the consequence of the increasing output which capitalism favors is increasing consumption. And so we get an endless chase after consumer goods just because capitalist firms are geared to making money and not to serving the interests of consumers. Alfred P. Sloan, who once ran General Motors in the United States, said that it was the business of the automobile industry to make money, not cars. I agree, and that, I'm saying, is why it makes so many cars. It would make far fewer if its goal weren't money, but, say, providing people with an efficient and an inoffensive form of transport. If the aim of production were the satisfaction of need, then rather less would be produced and consumed than is in fact produced and consumed. And most of us would lead less anxious lives and have more time and energy for the cultivation and enjoyment of our own powers.